Hi there, if you've ever looked at smart products online or in store, which you probably have because you're watching a smart home channel, then you will have probably seen that TP-Link have two big smart home brands, Kasa and Tapo. But why do they sell both? Is one better than the other? And are there any differences between the two? Well, I'll answer all these questions and more in today's video. There used to be a time when Kasa sold smart plugs, smart lights and switches, and then Tapo mainly sold smart cameras and more niche devices like water leak sensors. But things all got a bit confusing 2 or 3 years ago when Tapo launched in America, and also TP-Link announced that the Kasa brand would be closed down in the UK, and the Kasa app would be merged into the Tapo app. This all seemed to suggest that Kasa would be discontinued, and Tapo would then reign supreme. However, TP-Link then kept selling both Kasa and Tapo products in the US, UK and Europe, and then put out a statement saying that they still committed to the Kasa brand, which is confusing. A few months later, they started releasing more of each type of product across each brand. In other words, more Kasa smart cameras in the Kasa brand, of course, and then smart plugs, lights and switches in the Tapo brand. So now we're in a situation where both brands are directly competing against each other, even though TP-Link owns them both. I don't have some fancy MBA, nor do I work in business, but it does seem to me like TP-Link didn't always have a clear plan of how to develop the Kasa and Tapo brands and had a bit of a wobble internally about what to do before deciding to develop both brands. I'll come back to this particular point later, but I keep saying that both brands sell lots of different types of smart products, but are there any differences? Well, yes, in fact, there are. Kasa products are entirely Wi-Fi based, meaning that they all connect directly to your Wi-Fi router or your mesh Wi-Fi system. This can work well because you don't need to go out and buy some fancy and expensive new hub to set up your Kasa products. But if you have dozens of Kasa products, you might start overloading your router. Plus, Wi-Fi isn't always the most reliable of technologies, especially in the 2.4 GHz band, which is fairly congested. And part of the problem of Kasa's products is that many are still stuck on 2.4 GHz only, meaning that if you have some fancy new Wi-Fi 7 mesh Wi-Fi system, Kasa's products won't be able to take advantage of your awesome Wi-Fi setup. It just doesn't support Wi-Fi 6 or even Wi-Fi 7. Tapo, on the other hand, sell a couple of hubs like the H100 and the newer H200. The original idea with these hubs is that many of Tapo's products could connect directly to these hubs using low-frequency radio waves. In other words, not Wi-Fi. Due to how radio frequencies work, these sub-gigahertz connections will have a longer range and will be more reliable than Kasa's products, which only connect over 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi, or sometimes 5 GHz on some of their products. This hub-based approach from Tapo can also save battery because Wi-Fi traditionally drains more battery power than other protocols. This means that you can buy easy-to-install battery-based products like the Tapo Smart Water Leak Sensor and then connect them directly to a hub, the Tapo hub, and it'll all work smoothly and reliably, and then the batteries won't need changing every few months. Nice. So that is a clear difference between Tapo and Kasa. Tapo sell more niche products like water leak sensors, and then they connect in a more reliable and low-power way. Cool. But TP-Link have caused more confusion here by then rolling out a bunch of products in the last 2 years that do not support the hub. This means that many of the recent Tapo products are Wi-Fi only, and as a result, all of the benefits that I just discussed aren't available to the majority of the Tapo lineup nowadays. As a result, there is essentially very little difference between most of Kasa's and Tapo's products. It's not even the case that Kasa is higher quality than Tapo or one brand has lower pricing than the other. Often the quality and pricing is very similar. I've tested a number of Kasa and Tapo products and they all work fairly well. I've always been impressed, to be honest. Which brings us back to the remaining question: why do TP-Link sell both? Well, I should point out that this isn't an unusual situation. Massive corporations like Unilever have multiple brands all selling the same sort of thing, like having 3 ice cream companies all owned by the same corporation, Unilever. Equally, Philips sells Philips Hue and Philips Whiz, even though both are rival smart lighting companies, although admittedly one is Zigbee and the other is Wi-Fi, so there is a bit of a difference. And closer to home, I recently purchased a new network switch from Mercusys, and when it arrived, the box made clear that TP-Link actually owns Mercusys. So in other words, TP-Link have 2 networking brands, Mercusys and TP-Link itself. I think that sometimes companies do this partly as diversification. So if one of their brands or sub-companies starts getting a bad reputation, they still have some skin in the game with the other brand. And secondly, sometimes I think it's just for restructuring reasons, like one big company purchases a smaller company and then struggles to merge the two into each other. My hunch is that in this case, TP-Link did intend on merging Tapo and Kasa, but people liked both brands, especially in different countries around the world, so they struggled and just carried on selling both. Merging Tapo and Kasa together might have been too difficult, both from a marketing perspective, but also technologically, especially because some of Tapo's products are sub-gigahertz and rely on a hub. What I have noticed, though, is that sometimes Tapo's marketing doesn't actually mention TP-Link at all. You can go into a shop or on Amazon and see that some of Tapo's products sometimes don't say TP-Link at all. However, Kasa will clearly show the TP-Link branding, or they purely say TP-Link and not Kasa. It's almost like TP-Link HQ have decided to keep Kasa as their main clear TP-Link smart home brand and sell Tapo as some stealth brand. And that wraps up today's video. In short, there used to be some difference between Tapo and Kasa, but nowadays they are very similar. Flip a coin and choose one or both of the brands. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please click the thumbs up button. Please also subscribe to this channel if you aren't already. Thank you.